In collaboration with Domino Belgium and Aoshima, I'm building one of their newest releases. This kit has been released in the past in various different versions, including this one. This simply is a re-release of that old kit, just to bring it back up available again on all markets. So let's jump into the box, see what's inside, and then go over all the parts in a bit more detail further on in the video. So there are multiple different versions of the Aventador, and Aoshima has brought out several. They have the normal Aventador, they have the 50th or 40th anniversary that I've built on the channel a couple of years ago, and they also did the SV as well, and they came out with the Pirelli edition. Now in the base, most of these kits are pretty similar to each other, so there will be a lot of similar parts as well. Now not all of them are of course identical, so let's just see what's inside in a bit more detail and go over them. So the chassis on this one is a nice flat piece, with it being a supercar for aerodynamic purposes. That is of course done here too. It does have some nice details captured in here, like some of the bolts and nuts to keep it all together, some of the control arms, and some of the venting detail all around. On the other side it is pretty plain and simple, as you simply just build up from here. So to build up on the chassis itself, there of course are a couple of different sprues with detailed pieces on there. Some with the suspension and also control arm pieces, some parts for the steering, parts to mount the wheels, get it turnable, additional details like the brake disc calipers and brake discs. Of course, they are nicely drilled discs and have super nice detail in them all around. Well, all around the backside isn't detailed, as you can see here, but that's not a big deal, as that will pretty much be hidden. Some other parts on the underside, this one fits in on the chassis in that centerpiece, and some details will show through as well. So the cool thing about these Aventador kits is that they actually come with engines as well. They aren't full engines all round, but they are nice enough to be an addition to the kit itself, with a lot of separate parts and a lot of details in there. Now most of it will be hidden by all of these engine covers and even the main engine cover with the glass itself. So they just focused mainly on the parts that actually will be visible, and some of the underlying details are done too. As you can see, the main engine cover that will be shown here, I think this is some the air intake, not exactly sure. Some of the suspension components too, the main engine bay itself, and all of the detailed pieces around it, which will be highly visible once the engine is assembled and the full kit is put together. So like I said, there is not a full engine, but there is a lot of it. Some of these parts, like the exhaust parts, are incredibly complicated pieces and nicely detailed too. A bit more wiring, and this is the main bulk of the engine. Like I said, it's not super detailed all round, but nonetheless, pretty much once it's assembled, nothing of this will be seen. So it is good that they still spent some time on it, detailing it out, adding some parts here and there, giving it a bit more depth, but didn't overdo it and make the kit even more expensive by adding full engine parts and stuff like that, which won't be seen. Now the parts that are seen are of course incredibly well detailed. As you can see, these are the valve covers. They have a lot of the bolts, some of the ignition stuff in there, and have a super clean cast. Moving over from the chassis and engine into the interior. Now the chassis and engine are already nicely detailed. The interior is on another level. As you can see here on the center console, a lot of the parts and pieces are molded in here. The details for all the buttons and even the small screen, it is super nicely done, and with a bit of paint time and attention, it can turn into something amazing. Same goes for the door panels themselves. They have the speaker grills molded in here. All of the different shapes and different panels are on there too, so you can just go wild color wise. The steering wheel has some cool details in there as well, and they even added a headliner in here too. Some of the sunshades and also some of the controls and lighting for there are on here as well. The dashboard is made out of multiple different pieces. You have a lower section with a lot of the vents and some of the controls, even the display in here too, and there is the top section as well. For the door panels themselves, you do have some of the door pulls too, with a bit of the controlling and detailing stuff in there, and there of course are some nice seats and other details all around as well. The exterior on Aventadors is a pretty amazing thing to see. It has a lot of sharp angles, a lot of complicated parts, and super nice detailing all around. In the kit, they paid attention to all of these parts, and therefore there are a lot of them. A lot of vents are molded in separate pieces, so you can paint them in different colors or just give it a custom look. And as you can see here, some of the surrounds for all the other mesh pieces are done separately too. Even the rear diffuser is done in a separate piece. Now, not only that, all of the exterior pieces are molded into separate parts too. As you can see, the rear wing is a separate piece. I'm pretty sure you can have this in the opened or closed position. There are parts in this kit here too, if I remember correctly from the other build I did. And the doors on this one can actually be done in the opened or closed position. In the last build I did, I decided to glue them shut just to get some really nice panel gaps and get a clean look overall. On this one, I might decide to have the doors opened, as that is a pretty iconic look for these Aventadors, of course. So with a lot of those surrounds for the mesh all around being separate pieces, the mesh of course is done separately as well. I know that there is a photo etch set available for this kit that does replace a lot of these mesh pieces with photo etch parts, so that might be a good add-on if you want to add additional details to them. But nonetheless, it is also really good just to use these pieces, as they have incredible detail in them and are very sharply molded. So a lot of those body parts, of course, are separately molded pieces, and therefore the body is pretty bare. It does have a lot of bracing in here, as it is a bit of a fragile piece during shipping, and this probably has to do with making it easier to mold too. But it's really nice that all of this is nicely reinforced, and therefore the damage on this kit won't be all that bad if it does get mishandled during shipping. So luckily mine is totally fine and has no damage at all. But again, with all of these pieces in here, it is pretty strong. So like I said, the doors are separate and you can do them in the open and closed position. The side pieces or the side skirt is separate as well. And the engine cover can of course be done opened and closed too. The body is molded really well in a nice white plastic. The mold lines are hidden or in at least very accessible pieces. As you can see, it is right here on the front fender on a sharp edge, so you can just easily creep up to it with a bit of sandpaper and some sanding sticks to easily remove that. All of the panel lines themselves are nice, deep and wide and pretty much don't need any adjustment whatsoever. Now of course it doesn't hurt just to go over them once or twice, make them a bit deeper, but in this case I think it's unnecessary and you're pretty much good to go after a bit of sanding and cleanup work. So as far as wheels and tires go, you are sorted with this one as well. With it being a Pirelli edition, it comes with the wheels from the Roadster version. Now they also did a Roadster version by Aoshima, and therefore it was easy for them to add these wheels in there. As you can see, this is just a sprue from their Roadster kit, and those are the wheels for the Pirelli edition. And with a Pirelli edition, you of course get some Pirelli tires too. It has an incredibly nicely detailed sidewall with even the tire sizing on there as well, and a super cool thread pattern. Front and rear of course different sizes, both in the outer and inner diameter, and of course also the width for the rears being a lot wider than the fronts. With the Clearparts you are pretty well sorted too. Now this one broke off of the sprue, but it is totally fine, it's just separately here. It has some nice hazing on the side for you to mask it off and paint black. And other details are done here as well. I think this is one for the engine bay. You can just add some decals on top of here for some mesh. Even some parts for the interior like the dashboard are included too. And for a lot of the exterior Clearparts, they are taken care of as well. They have a really nice gloss to them. Again, the super sharp outline all around for all of the separate parts. And overall, they just look really, really good. For some of the taillight pieces, there are pre-colored Clearparts in here too. One with the orange one, of course, and one with the red one. You assemble it all and it simply just pops together and make it really easy. And you don't even have to paint these as they already look incredibly good. On the chrome side of things, they didn't overdo it either. They added a couple of chrome pieces for the rear view mirrors, some of the reflector pieces for the taillight housings, and also the headlight housings. I'm pretty sure these will get mainly covered with either black and white paint for some of the LEDs, but nonetheless it is nice to see it in here being molded and also chrome plated. For the exhaust side of things, they have a bigger muffler piece and also the main exhaust tip 2. Again, super nicely detailed piece, and this one is plated in a silvery finish, so it is good to use straight away, or just strip it and paint it black if you so desire, or just repaint it of course. There is one final bag with parts included as well. Since this one has opening doors, or opening and functioning doors, you get some metal pieces for the hinges, some of the other pieces for the struts, and even some poly caps for the wheels just to keep them spinnable a little bit. And then finally you get a sticker sheet for some of the Clearparts in order to mask them off and paint that black edge around it, so that makes it a lot easier and is a really good thing to see in these kits being added, as it's really easy to just apply it and then have it painted black of course. And for the final thing, there is a super cool decal sheet. Again, this is the Pirelli edition, so it does have some of these decals on here too. A lot of Pirelli logos, some logos for on the tires, even some red lines for on the tires too, and some for the exterior, a couple of stripes for on the roof, various other accent pieces on the interior probably, and just some general details all around too. Even some pieces for the headlights to make it easier so you don't have to paint that white LED part. It is simply already pre-painted. On the chrome side of things, they didn't overdo it at all, just the